The Hunger Games might seem straightforward, a dystopian story about survival, rebellion, and hope. But if you look a little closer, things get a lot darker. Beneath the familiar symbols, the quotes, and the spectacle of the games, there are details most people miss. Hidden lore, disturbing theories, and a side of Panem that the capital, and sometimes the story itself, doesn't want you to think about. Today, we're going to peel back those layers, from the iconic moments everyone remembers, to the deep, unsettling corners of the world that only the most dedicated fans talk about. This is the Hunger Games Iceberg. Tier 1. The Surface. The Mockingjay tune. A simple 4-note whistle. Nothing more than a signal between Rue and Katniss. But over time, that sound grew into something far greater. It became a rallying cry, a message the capital couldn't censor, a song that carried rebellion through forests, arenas, and airwaves. The Mockingjay didn't need words, just a tune. May the odds be ever in your favor. Effie Trinket's cheery catchphrase hides a cruel irony. It's delivered with smiles and bright colors, but its meaning is cold. It reminds every tribute that survival isn't earned, it's luck. The capital wishes you good fortune as it sends you to die. Battle Royale structure. 24 tributes, 1 victor. The game themselves are a twisted spectacle, designed to entertain the capital and control its districts. Alliances, betrayals, traps, blood. It's not just a fight for survival, it's a performance. Every camera, every sponsor gift, every death, choreographed for an audience. Poisonous berries. When Katniss and Peeta raised the Nightlock berries to their lips, they broke the unspoken rule. The capital decides who lives. It wasn't just defiance, it was strategy, symbolism, and a moment the capital didn't see coming. A single act that forced their hand and lit the first spark of rebellion. Team Gale versus Team Peeta. On the surface, it's the classic love triangle. Gale, the fiery hunter, Peeta, the boy with the bread. But beneath that choice was something deeper. Gale represents anger and revolution. Peeta, empathy and peace. Katniss' dilemma wasn't just romantic, it was ideological. The 74th Games and District Boundaries. The 74th Hunger Games changed everything. Katniss volunteered for Prim, Peeta's confession, and the final standoff with the berries sent shockwaves through Panem. But the games didn't exist in a vacuum. They were built on strict district boundaries, designed to divide labor, resources, and people. 12 districts, 1 capital, endless control, until those lines began to blur. The reaping. Every game begins the same way. 2 names, 1 boy, 1 girl. For the capital, it's tradition. For the districts, it's terror. The reaping isn't just a selection. It's a public reminder of who holds power. Entire communities gather to watch children be chosen to die. Haymitch Abernathy, District 12's lone living victor, before Katniss and Peeta. To most, he's a drunk. But Haymitch's story is one of trauma, strategy, and quiet rebellion. His survival was brutal, his mentorship unorthodox, and his presence is a reminder of what victory truly costs. Sponsorships. In the arena, survival isn't just about skill, it's about spectacle. Sponsorships turn life and death into a marketplace. Tributes who impress the audience receive gifts, food, and medicine. Others are left to die unseen. Child slaughter. At its core, The Hunger Games is a story about a society that normalizes child murder. The Capitol dresses it up with fireworks and fashion, but beneath the glamour is ritualized slaughter, televised for entertainment. Effie trinkets. Effie embodies the Capitol's polished obliviousness. Perfect outfits, perfect manners, and complete detachment from the suffering she participates in. She's both comic relief and a disturbing look at how cruelty can hide behind etiquette. The three-finger salute. What began as a silent gesture of respect in District 12 became something more. The three-finger salute spread like wildfire, a symbol of unity, defiance, and mourning. A simple motion that terrified the Capitol more than any weapon. Capitol broadcast. Every image, every sound, every moment of the games is controlled. Capitol broadcasts shape what the districts see, editing out rebellion, twisting narratives, and glorifying violence. The games aren't just fought in the arena, they're engineered in the edit room. The deleted scene and book moments. There's a surprising amount of content that never made it into the films. Moments like Peeta losing his leg after the games, Katniss's emotional breakdowns, and entire character beats were cut to keep pacing tight. These lore details actually shift how we view the story, especially Peeta's prosthetic leg, which added a constant reminder of the game's brutality and that movies kind of glossed over. Mockingjays as Capitol experiments. Most fans know Mockingjays became rebellion symbols, but their origin is way darker. They weren't just birds, they were the accidental offspring of Jabberjays, a Capitol surveillance species created to spy on rebels. When Jabberjays were abandoned, they bred with mockingbirds. The Capitol tried to erase them, but they survived anyway. That's why they became such a powerful symbol, living proof that the Capitol can fall. Katniss' parents and class divide. Katniss' mom came from the merchant class. Her dad was from the seam. Basically, the district's working poor. This quiet background detail sets up a lot. Why the town treats Katniss differently. Why her mom's family disapproved of the marriage. And how class divisions exist even within districts. Panem isn't just capital versus districts. It's layered inequality everywhere. Buttercup's symbolism. Buttercup isn't just a grumpy cat. He's a reoccurring symbol of survival and stubbornness. Katniss hates him at first, but Buttercup keeps coming back. By the end, he becomes this oddly grounding presence, surviving bombings, war, and everything else. In some readings, he mirrors Katniss herself, scrappy, angry, impossible to kill. Peeta's bread. This moment is the turning point before the story even starts. Peeta giving Katniss burned bread was an act of mercy that literally kept her family alive. But it's also clever foreshadowing, bread becoming a reoccurring motif for hope and rebellion. Even the Capitol's obsession with food gets mirrored here, their abundance versus the district's desperation. Katniss' wedding dress transformation. During Snow's wedding charade, Katniss' dress burns away to reveal the Mockingjay outfit. It's one of the most iconic visuals in the series, but it's also a calculated act of rebellion. Cinna risked his life for this moment. On broadcast television, in front of the Capitol, he turned a propaganda piece into the spark of resistance. Avoxes. Early on, we're introduced to Avoxes, servants who had their tongues cut out as punishment for rebellion or escape. In Tier 2, it's less about the horror and more about the system. Avoxes are living propaganda. They're forced to serve the very people who destroyed their lives. It's one of the Capitol's quietest, most disturbing forms of control. the Victors Tour. After each game, the Victors tour the districts. On the surface, it's celebration. In reality, it's a psychological warfare, parading someone who killed fellow tributes back through their grieving communities. It reinforces fear, making victors capital property, and gives Snow a chance to check for rebellion seeds in person. Training center and game makers. The arenas aren't just natural landscapes. They're massive, controlled environments built by the capital's game makers. Every trap, every storm, every mutation is scripted like a reality TV show. It's less survival and more like being stuck inside a lethal movie set, where producers can kill you if your ratings drop. Fan fiction and early internet culture. The Hunger Games hit at the height of early Tumblr, Wattpad, and AO3 culture. Entire fandoms communities popped up overnight. Alternate endings, shipping wars. Some of these fan theories became so widespread that people still misremember them as canon. For example, the Katniss had a secret sibling theory floated around fan forums for years. Katniss is a capital plant. One popular theory says Katniss was intentionally allowed to survive because the capital saw her as a useful symbol. Her miraculous survival, her high scores, her perfectly timed televised defiance. Some argue the game makers pushed her story because it boosted ratings. The twist is that she outgrew their plan. Peeta was brainwashed early. While the hijacking in Mockingjay is canon, there's a fan theory that the Capitol began conditioning Peeta before the Quarter Quell. His charm, his perfect interviews, the way he fits into Capitol propaganda. Some fans think he was groomed as a Capitol favorite long before the Tracker Jacker Venom incident. Snow's White Roses. Snow's obsession with white roses wasn't just aesthetic. In the books, he used them to mask the smell of blood from his mouth sores, a side effect of poisoning his rivals. But symbolically, they're purity covering decay. Snow weaponizes beauty to hide rot, just like the Capitol itself. Capitol fashion in real life. Capitol fashion bled into real-world pop culture. The Met Gala, high-concept runway shows, even music videos starring echoing Hunger Games aesthetics after the movies. It's one of those eerie moments where dystopian fiction started influencing actual luxury fashion, sometimes without people realizing their satire. The games were rigged for Katniss. This theory goes a step further than the Capitol Plant one. It claims the entire 74th Games was engineered to ensure Katniss' survival. The rule change, the sponsorship timing, the way obstacles conveniently targeted other tributes. Some fans think the rebellion's leaders or rogue game makers tampered with the games to manufacture a Mockingjay. Hidden rebellion hints in Catching Fire. Looking back, Catching Fire hides rebellion hints in plain sight. The Mockingjay clock arena, subtle phrasing during the Quarter Quell announcement. It's all breadcrumbs for the secret alliance forming behind the scenes. Most people only catch these details after their second watch. Mandela effects and misremembered details. Hunger Games fandom has its own Mandela effects, like people thinking Gale was in the arena, or misremembering who started the three-finger salute. These little false memories spread online and got folded into fan lore, blurring the line between canon and community storytelling. The first Hunger Games. The games didn't start with Katniss and Peeta. The very first Hunger Games were far more brutal, with less structure and higher death counts. Records are scarce, but the surviving stories hint at a version of Panem that was already cruel, chaotic, and horrifying. It's the foundation of everything that comes later, and it's easy to forget that the spectacle we see in the films is a refined version of real horror. District 13 before the rebellion. Most people only know District 13 as the hidden rebel stronghold, but its history goes deeper. It was once considered lost, with the skeleton government keeping strict nuclear research and militarized control. Some fans believe 13 had been quietly shaping the rebellion long before Katniss even volunteered, manipulating events in the background. In other words, the Mockingjay might not have been an accident. Unused mutations in the books. And I know some people are going to say it's mutations because of mutt, but no, it's mutations. The movies show mutations, but the books get weirder. Some were designed to resemble tributes' faces, horrifying, predatory creatures meant to terrorize anyone in the arena. These aren't just monsters. They're symbols of the Capitol's obsession with psychological torture, and a reminder that the games weren't only about physical survival. Tracker Jackers. We all remember the venom and chaos, but their real purpose goes beyond attack. The Tracker Jackers were designed to target fear itself. They amplify hallucinations, paranoia, and trauma, ensuring tributes turn on each other or act irrationally. A perfect example of capital engineering, death disguised as nature. Capital control of victors. Victory doesn't equal freedom. Many victors are addicted to capital luxuries, traumatized, or quietly coerced into service. Some are turned into voxes or used in propaganda campaigns. Even the heroes of the games are, in a way, prisoners of Panem's system. Plutarch's secret role. Plutarch Heavensby isn't just a game designer in Catching Fire. Some theories suggest he has ties to the rebellion years before. His position as headmaker allowed him to subtle manipulate outcomes, favoring tributes who could inspire change. If true, the Capitol was unknowingly grooming this very figure who would spark its downfall. Katniss' Stad Rebellion. Fans speculate that Katniss' father wasn't just a miner who died in an accident. Some believe he was part of an early resistance efforts. It would explain Katniss' instincts, knowledge of the forest, and survival skills. Her legacy, in this view, is inherited, and the Mockingjay's defiance is part of a longer, hidden story. Snow starving districts strategically. President Snow's cruelty isn't random. Some fans theorize he intentionally kept districts on the brink of starvation to breed tributes who could become interesting for the games. The goal? Ensure spectacle, maintain fear, and create controllable heroes and villains alike. Timeline inconsistencies. Paying attention to ages and game numbers reveals oddities. Haymitch's age versus the numbering of the Hunger Games doesn't always line up. These discrepancies lead to fan theories that suggest the official history of Panem has been rewritten or manipulated, another form of capital propaganda. Capital created Mockingjay conspiracy. Some theorists take the Mockingjay story a step further. The Capitol intentionally allowed them to survive. By creating a species that symbolizes rebellion, yet also communicates via song, they unknowingly birth their own undoing. It's a subtle, chilling thought. Even capital experiments have untended consequences. District 13 knew about Katniss. Some fans believe that District 13 tracked Katniss from the start. Her survival, skills, and reactions to the games could have been anticipated and used to plan the rebellion. In this light, Katniss is both a symbol and a tool. Coin versus Snow parallels. President Coin mirrors Snow in surprising ways. Some fans argue the rebellion was doomed from the start, because replacing one authoritarian figure with another isn't true freedom. It's a continuation of the same system. The games never ended. A dark fan theory suggests that even after the Capitol fell, the games continued in some form. either secret contests or other districts or experiments by using capital scientists. It's unsettling, and it turns the story from a neat trilogy into an ongoing cycle of control and survival. The Starving Games, a pop culture parody of the series. The Starving Games isn't canon, but it's an important Tier 3 Iceberg moment. It demonstrates how the franchise infiltrated broader culture, inspiring parody, critique, and sometimes misremembered lore. Missing book characters. The films left out a surprising number of characters. Madge Undersea, Darius the Avox, and others had small but important roles in the books. Their absence changed story nuances and fueled fan theories about what really happened behind the scenes. Hayfie elevator scene. This short, seemingly minor scene became a fandom sensation. Haymitch and Effie in the elevator sparked shipping debates, memes, and headcanons. It's a reminder that some of the most discussed parts of the story aren't the major plot points. They're the fleeting, unexpected moments that capture fan imagination. District 13's secret manipulations. District 13 wasn't just hiding underground, waiting for the rebellion. Some theories suggest they were even subtle, influencing events before Katniss even volunteered, selecting which tributes would survive, nudging alliances, and quietly planting seeds of rebellion across districts. The Mockingjay might have been less an accident and more of a carefully cultivated spark. The Lost Arenas. Not every Hunger Games was televised or recorded. Some games were considered lost, early experiments where the Capitol tested new mutts, environmental hazards, or political control methods. Tributes died without fanfare. Histories were erased. The Capitol never wanted the public to know, and that's what makes it so horrifying. Executed or disappeared victors. We all know the stories of Haymitch, Katniss, and Peeta, but some victors vanished. Fans speculated that these survivors were executed quietly or used as labor for the Capitol's secret projects. Even survival didn't guarantee freedom. Victory could be a death sentence in disguise. Panem geography theories. Maps of Panem are scarce, but some fans speculate about lost or destroyed districts. Districts that were nuked, abandoned, or repurposed for capital experiments. The real-world placement, combined with historical hints in the books, suggests the nation has a dark, buried history the films barely touch. Capital human experiments. Mutts are just the beginning. The books hint at chemical manipulation, tracker-jacker variations, and psychological experiments on tributes. Avoxes, for example, weren't just punished. Some may have experimented on to test brainwashing, obedience, or memory erasure. The Capitol treats people as data points, not human beings. President Coin is the true villain. Coin's rise mirrors Snow in uncanny ways. Fans argue the rebellion may have been doomed to replace one tyrant with another. In this layer, Tier 4 gets philosophical. Maybe Panem's system of control is cynical, and the Mockingjay's only delayed history rather than changed it. Panem's hidden games. Some speculate that even after the trilogy, the games never truly ended. Secret contests, covert experiments, and ongoing manipulations could continue in secret districts or in under-capital remnants. It's unsettling to imagine the horrors of the arena aren't confined to history or storybooks. Capital media manipulation. Almost everything broadcast to the districts was carefully crafted. Interviews, camera angles, sponsor gifts, all designed to influence perception, create fear, and manipulate loyalty. The games weren't just fought in arenas, they were fought in the minds of every spectator. secret codes and messages. Fans have pointed out subtle codes in broadcasts, signals in games events, and hidden messages in the books. Some suggest they were meant for rebellion cells, a secret language to inspire resistance without the Capitol noticing. It's the hidden complexity most casual viewers never see. Obscure pop culture and fandom. Deleted fan theories like Foxface escaping early. Hunger Games metaphors for real-world revolutions. Fan math, analyzing survival probability. Crossovers and obscure AU fanfiction. Even in pop culture, Panem's influence feels like a layer of its own, dark, pervasive, and endlessly discussed. First ever Capitol Games, Mutations. Long before Katniss, the Capitol was experimenting with creatures far more dangerous than the mutts we know. These early mutations were hybrids of animals, engineered to be faster, stronger, and more intelligent. Some even had rudimentary facial recognition abilities. Reports in the books hint that these creatures could anticipate tribute behavior, tracking them relentlessly, learning their patterns, and even psychologically manipulating them by mimicking sounds from their past. Entire arenas were shut down after accidents, with mutts killing uncontrollably. The Capitol destroyed the evidence, leaving only whispers of how lethal these experiments truly were. Secret districts erased before Katniss' timeline. Panem wasn't always 12 districts. Obscure references and fan-mapped geography hint at lost districts, obliterated by nuclear strikes or erased from history due to rebellion. District 11A and 12B are names whispered in forums, supposedly destroyed long before the 74th Hunger Games. These districts' erasure serves as a reminder. The Capitol doesn't just control the present, it rewrites history, erasing entire communities that could threaten its narrative. Lost tributes erased from records. Not every tribute survives in memory. Some were never officially recorded, their deaths hidden by the Capitol to maintain a carefully curated public image. These ghost tributes may have inspired new arenas or mutt experiments. In some fan theories, their lives were completely erased, stripped from history, except for cryptic mentions in old Capitol archives. Capitol experimentation on Victor genetics. The Capitol didn't stop with the arena. Some believe they monitored victors long after their games, testing genetics and behavioral traits. Haymitch's alcoholism, PTSD, and cynicism aren't just trauma. Some theorists argue these are side effects of controlled observation or chemical testing. The Capitol may have experimented on human endurance, loyalty, adaptability, using victors as living data points. Unseen corners of the training center. The training center was more than a practice space. Books hint at restricted areas containing abandoned equipment, failed tributes, or secret observation rooms. Some theorists suggest they were labs for psychological and physical experiments, a way for the Capitol to continue refining the games behind closed doors. It's easy to forget that the arena is just the tip of the iceberg. The Capitol's control extends far beyond the visible. Original rules of the first Hunger Games. The first Hunger Games were chaotic and far more lethal than modern ones. No sponsors, no safety nets, barely enforced rules. Tributes were often killed simply to test new environments, poisons, or traps. This brutality set the precedent for the entire system, a history the Capitol carefully sanitizes, making the games appear fair when they were anything but that. Surviving tributes as secret operatives. Not all victors were free after their games. Some may have recruited for secret missions, enforcing capital power, monitoring districts, or assisting with the redesign. Their survival came with invisible chains. This layer of control shows that the capital's grip didn't end with the games. It extends every corner of the victor's life. Katniss as a manufactured Mockingjay. One of the most chilling theories. Katniss was groomed her entire life to become the Mockingjay. Her survival instincts, archery skills, and moral compass weren't just natural. They were predicted, observed, and subtly encouraged. In this view, the rebellion wasn't an accident. It was the result of careful planning, and Katniss was both the symbol and the tool. It's the ultimate question. How much of her story is real, and how much was written before she even volunteered? Coin's preordained rise. President Coin mirrors Snow in subtle ways. Some theorists argue she was intended from the start to replace him, a contingency in a carefully controlled political cycle. The rebellion might have been planned not to liberate Panem, but to maintain it under a new ruler, a cycle of oppression hidden in plain sight. The Capitol's food experiments. The Capitol isn't just cruel in the arena. Some theorists believe their control extended to what citizens ate in the districts. They might have engineered certain foods with subtle chemicals to influence mood, compliance, or loyalty. Imagine a society where every bite could nudge your mind, making rebellion less likely, or subtly reinforcing fear and obedience. It's barely mentioned in the books, but in Tier 5, these whispers suggest the Capitol's manipulation reached far beyond the games, into the very biology of its citizens. Haymitch passed games as a hidden map of Capitol control. Haymitch survived the 50th Hunger Games, but his story might hide more than trauma and alcoholism. Some theorists argue that if you chart his movements, alliances, and strategies in that game, patterns emerge, hints at capital control and experimentation. Every district, every interaction could have been a subtle test designed to monitor obedience or identify potential future leaders and threats. In this sense, Haymitch's survival isn't just luck, it's evidence of the Capitol playing chess on a national scale, decades before Katniss even volunteered. And that is the Hunger Games Iceberg. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to subscribe. Comment what kind of things I missed, any obscure theories or interesting facts. I'm not the biggest Hunger Games fan, but researching these topics and theories was a very good time to say the least. Thank you guys so much for watching. Goodbye.